Welcome, Hans Bos. You are National Technology Officer for Microsoft the Netherlands. What is a National Technology Officer?
Well, the way that I describe it usually is that the technology officer is kind of like an ambassador between Microsoft and government, customers and partners in the Netherlands. And as an ambassador, I represent all kinds of conversations on new technology, new innovations by Microsoft, disruptive technologies, for example, legal and regulatory compliance conversations. So basically everywhere Microsoft either creates a new opportunity or causes some friction, that's where the ambassador, that's where the National Technology Officer comes in.
Yeah, friction solutions.
Every now and then. Yeah.
You, or your company, I should say, Microsoft, is a partner in this Dutch blockchain hackathon. Yes. Why?
Because we think that the blockchain as a technology, as a generic technology, is creating very many opportunities.
Are we already in a situation where we can talk about generic blockchain?
Well, at a high level, you know. So many people, if they think about blockchain, usually they associate it immediately with Bitcoin, like a digital or cryptocurrency. And the reason why I use the term generic blockchain is to emphasize that the blockchain itself is not necessarily only for digital currency or cryptocurrency. It can be used for many purposes and many domains or industry solutions.
Okay.
So that's why I want to use the term generic, to emphasize that.
So your platform, Azure, supports blockchain technology.
Yeah.
Can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Yeah. So basically Azure, Microsoft Azure is kind of like a global hyperscale cloud service and infrastructure on top of which many of our partners and vendors and customers are building their own solutions. And basically Microsoft is also offering on top of Azure additional functionality, services. And in this case, for the context of this hackathon, for example, it's also important to notice that Microsoft deploys on top of Azure something that is called the blockchain as a service. And in that sense, the blockchain as a service offers a very rapid starting point, very much applicable to the hackathon context and event, because it's a very rapid starting point to immediately learn, develop and create something on top of an existing or something that you design yourself, blockchain.
Now, having it as a service, in my mind, associates with cloud, associates with a central position, whereas a lot of blockchains are decentralized. So can you expand on that? How does that work?
Yeah, so the cloud itself is a global infrastructure. So in that sense, it's decentralized. It's a global infrastructure. It's still the Microsoft Azure environment. So it's a Microsoft provided global infrastructure. But you as a developer, you as a customer, you have the choice indeed to deploy either, for example, in these Microsoft data centers as part of this Azure infrastructure, or you can deploy on-premise in your own data center and you can integrate them, for example. The only reason why we emphasize Azure in this context is for the starting point. It provides a very rapid starting point with a lot of available, ready to start, ready to use templates, or what we call Azure Resource Manager templates, so that you can create your own starting point in a much more faster way than you would if you had to develop everything from scratch yourself. Okay, so you can still do that, but we provide a faster starting point.
It's like you're providing a toolbox to go with the blockchain technology.
Exactly, yeah. Where the blockchain technology would be the algorithm, the model, the math behind it, if you will. And the Azure Blockchain as a Service provides the starting point for developers to rapidly prototype, to rapidly design a solution, to fail fast, if that's applicable in the context. So it's helpful.
Have you, as Microsoft, made a choice between, for instance, the different consensus mechanisms that are available in blockchain industry, or do you support all of them?
That's up to the developer. You can make a choice.
Okay.
It's an open platform, it's an open environment.
As a National Technology Officer, you see a lot of the impact that technology has over time. You have been around for a while. From a personal standpoint, what do you think are the most interesting things happening right now in the world of blockchain with regards to how it used to be?
Wow, in the world of blockchain specifically, with regards to how it used to be, well, that's interesting then, because nobody used it. So the first time I had a conversation about blockchain, it was specifically about Bitcoin. And this was in 2011 when I had to do a presentation about digital currencies. And people mentioned digital currencies, that's something for the future, it's not happening today. And this was in 2011. And I was mentioning to the audience, if you think it's not happening today, you're wrong, because we already have a digital currency in, for example, the Bitcoin. And in those days, this was completely new. The audience was flabbergasted. They were not even aware there was something like the Bitcoin around in those days. And nowadays, the significant development is even that Bitcoin itself is not leading anymore. The blockchain, the algorithm, the model, if you will, is leading the conversation. And suddenly, Bitcoin is one of the use cases, if you will, for the blockchain. So the whole conversation has turned around from this is the Bitcoin and it's a brilliant solution to all kinds of problems, etc. And by the way, it is using the blockchain. The whole conversation has turned around to this is the blockchain and it's going to help you in a lot of ways. And by the way, one of the use case examples is the Bitcoin.
Right.
So that's, I think, the major transition. It has flipped around, if you will.
Talking about use cases, what do you think are the most interesting use cases to start working on right now?
Wow.
You have to make a choice.
I have to make a choice. Well, that's difficult because I would argue it's all of the above. There are very interesting use cases in the finance sector, of course, that's very visible, but also in pharmacy for tracking and tracing of medical supplies, for example. So there's asset management in general sense. There is in the transport and logistics, there are a lot of use cases. There are in farm for produce where it's being produced to on your plate, if you will, to track and trace the whole chain throughout the industry. There are a lot of use cases. At this time, I would argue, don't limit yourself to selecting one of the use cases. Look at all of them. There are so many opportunities right now.
All right. Have you been a developer yourself?
Yeah, but that's a long time ago.
That's a long time ago.
I started in 1988 as a software developer.
And what got you interested in software development?
The ability to create something. That you can actually tell the computer to do something and it does it. And that's still kind of like amazing, right? And if you develop something wrong, it does it wrong, but it does exactly what you tell it to do. I love that, that's great. That's also one of the things, maybe you're coming to that, that's also one of the things that I love about smart contracts, for example. It does exactly what you tell it to do. And if you tell it the wrong things, it's going to do the wrong things. But it does exactly what you tell it to do. And I like that in development potential.
Would you then say that the future is in the hands of developers?
I'm not sure if that would be a great thing or a right thing. I think that developers, in this context of the blockchain as today, developers are at the forefront of something that is going to change or potentially change a lot of existing or classic processes and systems in society and the economy. So developers have a responsibility, but I like to think that developers, and many of the developers indeed, have an open mindset and that they do engage with people with other backgrounds, for example, to actually create this future that we're looking for.
And you mean?
So, for example, we have to engage and educate business decision makers. We have to engage and educate politicians. We have to engage and educate existing infrastructures and organizations responsible for those existing infrastructures. It's not a fight against the establishment. It's a way to interact with the establishment and show them that there are alternatives available to them.
Awesome. Thank you.
You're welcome.